All right, so we are starting our lesson where we're going to learn about circumference of circles. So I've started us off by placing my center on here. Remember, in our last lesson, we talked about what a circle is, and we understand that there is an infinite number of points that lie the same distance from the center. Remember, when we go from the center to a particular distance, in this case, I went 3 centimeters. Um, in all directions, the more points that you start to place on, 3 centimeters from the center, the more you start to see that there's a circle here. So I'm going to put another point just so you can see what I did. So I took it, put it at the center, put my ruler at the center, and then I plotted a point at 3 centimeters. Let me turn it a little bit. All right, so I'm going to put one right here. Right? And if I want to, I can just put them any place that I want. Remember, it needs to be the same distance from the center. Going from from the center to the edge, 3 centimeters, that creates what we call our radius. Okay, and so your radius is going to be 3 centimeters in all directions. Okay, and so as we connect those points, we should start to see that we're getting a circle. So I'm going to try to connect all these dots and we'll see what we get. All right. So there's our circle. And so remember a few things that we want to know. So as you go from the center to the edge, 3 centimeters, that's called your radius. Okay. So your radius is going from, let me see if I can get a darker color. So you're going from the edge, from the center to the edge, 3 centimeters. That's called your radius. Remember that when we're looking at the circle, we're actually we have another side over here that's the same distance, right? And as we go from the center to the edge on the left side, we have the same distance. It's 3 centimeters, right? And so we have twice the radius, okay? And when you go from one end of the circle to the other edge of the circle, that distance in between or going straight across is called the diameter. So, just as a recap, when we are looking at the diameter, you're basically looking at twice the radius, okay? And if you are looking at the diameter, so we could say, let's look at just the diameter. So this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is 6 units or 6 centimeters for our diameter, right? Um, if you are looking for the radius is going to be one half of the diameter. Okay. And so if we want to check these out, so your radius, one half of 6 is going to be 3, right? And if we wanted to find the diameter, remember we had 1, 2, 3. So 3 times 2 would give you that 6. So that's important for you to understand the diameter and the radius. Now, let's talk about the circumference. So what happens is the circumference is going to be your distance around the circle, okay? So it's like your perimeter. You're going around the circle, and there's a ratio in terms of what that value is going to be when we talk about the circumference. So that ratio is going to be, and we're going to show that circumference is going to be represented by a C. Okay, so that means your circumference. All right, so to find the ratio of the circumference, what that value is, the ratio that we're going to use to find out the value of the circumference is our circumference C, and we're going to divide that by our diameter. Okay. When you do that, you're going to always, always, always come out with the same answer, and that answer is going to be pi. So circumference, the distance around the circle divided by your diameter, is going to be known as pi. Okay. And pi is going to be a number that is not repeatable. It's considered to be an irrational number. And so the first few digits that we'll typically talk about when it's in terms of pi is going to be 3.14. And it goes on and on. There's no pattern. We don't see a pattern, so it's considered to be an irrational number. But regardless of how small or how large your circle is, you're still going to have the same value in terms of that ratio when we compare the circumference to the diameter, because both will increase at the same size as you expand it, and they will both decrease at the same size. They're proportional to each other as you decrease the size. So, in our upcoming lessons, what we're going to do is we're going to be finding the circumference. Now we have a formula on how we can find the circumference if we are giving two pieces of information. So we know always that the value of pi is going to be 3.14. And the value of our diameter is going to be that distance from one end of the circle to the other end of the circle. Now, remember, if we are looking for the diameter, and we don't know the diameter, because let's say that they give us the radius, then we can still find the diameter. We can still find the diameter by using the radius, right? Because we know that twice the radius is the same thing as the diameter. So remember that the radius multiplied by 2 gives you the diameter. So either way, we'll be able to figure out what our circumference is in the upcoming examples that we're going to be working on.